Reputation is the currency of the realm. Reputation is the currency of the realm. You'll learn more about that today. My name is Gabriel Griess, your host of the Navigating Leaders podcast. Awaken your vision and live boldly. Thank you for coming here today. I'm so excited to introduce you to a good friend of mine, personal friend, professional friend. We work in the same space. Mr. Gary Watson, the Vice President of Strategic Accounts at Trio Workforce Solutions. But more important than that, you are an amazing man of God, a musician. Everybody I've ever spoken to only speaks highly of you. And in my relationship with you reflects that. I mean, you just value people, and you are brilliant, and you are kind, and you share graciously. And so I'm just honored to have you here with us today. Thank you for coming.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I mean, we've been friends for so long, it just made sense. And I love, having seen some of the other episodes. I love what you're doing. I love what you're trying to do with this podcast, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Gary. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, we briefly spoke about leadership, right? In the title, Navigating Leaders.
Right.
And we've spoken about leadership before. Really, it's an inside job, who you are, how you show up, what you do. And you had an interesting take on leadership in that in some cases it doesn't require anybody following you or an official team. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of learned through my years working in multiple industries that, sometimes you have a team, sometimes you don't, but that doesn't mean that you don't have an opportunity for influence the people around you, right? Every organization hires you because they believe that you're going to bring some value to the organization in some way, shape, or form, whether it's as an individual contributor or whether in a leadership role. But, the path to leadership, if you're not a leader, is influence. The path to success in leadership, if you are a leader, is influence. We were talking earlier, you can't make people do anything. They have to be inspired. They have to be motivated and influenced. And the only way to do that is to make it make sense to them, right? If they have a goal in front of them and they can't connect that goal to what matters in their life, they leave the job and they go home and they got their wife and kids or spouse, and, they got bills to pay and things that are priorities to them. And if what you're trying to get them to do at work doesn't resonate with what they're trying to accomplish, they won't do a good job for you, and, so it's just really critically important to connect those dots, whether it's through storytelling or, sharing your experiences and how maybe things that you're asking them to do, how when you had to do those things in the past, how, you struggled or, how you found value in doing those things. But ultimately just connecting the dots so that people feel valued, feel like their work matters. When they do that, typically they do their best work.
So connecting to the why.
Yeah.
Right. The why we're doing things.
Yep.
And yeah, that's super important. You spoke about inspiration and influence, and this has been a lesson I've been afforded the opportunity to learn in my transition. Right. So from the military into the civilian world, we had a phrase in the military called OT&E, organize, train, and equip, right? So leaders, organizations, managers, our job is to organize the organization, to train the people and equip them. And I actually just had a guest on, a few weeks ago, and absolutely amazing gentleman who's covered so many things, but he also was military, but is a city council member and a business owner and a musician like you. And we'll get to your music in a minute, but he added an I to OT&E, and that I is inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in especially in the commercial world or in the business world, and generationally speaking, that inspiration, that why, that in some ways, tell me what's in it for me is yeah, what's that?
The Whiffle.
Yeah. So how have you developed your ability to inspire folks and to get them behind the mission? How have you developed those skills?
I mean, honestly, it's something I'm continuing to learn, right? But in my experience, the starting point is finding out what makes them tick, right? If you're, whether it's a cross-departmental or somebody on your team, anybody that you're wanting to influence or serve, but let's use a better term, you're serving them, you got to know what matters to them, right? Even if you're serving a customer, like you got to know what matters to them. You can't solve their problems if you don't know what their problems are, right? So you have to lean in. And sometimes that's leaning into something uncomfortable, right? Trying to figure out like what's not working, what's, what bothers you, what keeps you up at night, what, that sort of thing. But once you know those things and, and those people know that you care about those things, then they're going to be more open to listening to you, share any guidance and anything about how to, maybe navigate those things differently. But then also, when you tell them that those things, that the goals and the things that you're trying to accomplish, from a business perspective will impact those things in a certain way. Here's how, they're a lot more open to hearing that story because they know you care about those things that are really important to them.
Yeah. So to listen, to engage, to serve, to seek to understand more than sell.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to put others before yourself, period. I mean, that's, in my experience, that's the key to life, really.
So something that has always inspired me about you, and right now it's written all over you for those of you that are just listening, right? You've got this presence, this peace, this assurance of who you are as an individual, as a man, as a person, right? Like I have to imagine that way of being gives you space to hear, space for people to share. I have a shortcoming of, oh yeah, I know that problem. Let me solve that for you. Mm-hmm. Right. Like you're like, I just said hello. Like, I jumped to conclusions, and so that's something I continue to work on, right? Is to not be that, or with my spouse, right? Yeah. I'm just sharing. I don't need you to solve this. Right.
Yeah.
But how have you always been that calm and measured and self-aware and present, or is that something you developed? And if you've developed, how have you continued to grow that skill? Because it's a gift.
Well, I mean, definitely something I developed. I mean, I think I grew up in somewhat of a peaceful household. I mean, you could argue both sides of that, but growing up, I had kind of an angry streak in me, where, if something didn't go the way it needed to go, it wasn't anything like me being like a mean person, but if, like I was in school, I wanted to do well in class. If I didn't do well on something, I would get angry. And sometimes I would want to hit something. I remember, full transparency. I remember in 12th grade, I was a football player, track runner, all these things. So I was athletic, bigger than I am now. And I woke up late and missed a math test that I had studied all night for. Now, grown me knows that I'm not going to go to school and them tell me I can't take the math test that I overslept for. But 17-year-old me punched a hole in a closet door, so, just knowing that I physically could do that. As I got older and older and, met my wife and, marriage is not easy. And there was, times when we'd be getting arguments. And one time I slapped a hole in the drywall in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, I mean, she wasn't even there. I was just mad at something we had talked about before I went home. We were at a party and she sent me home for something and I couldn't find it. And I got mad and I slapped a hole. And then, of course, in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna have to explain that to my wife when she gets home. But in that moment, I thought about, what if I hit my wife or my kids, or with whatever that is, whatever that anger, whatever that wells up when certain things happens. And from that time, which was probably about 20 years ago, I was like, I got to find a way to channel my anger. And so, I probably always had a peaceful demeanor about myself, but there were things that could trigger me. And I think through the work of the Holy Spirit, I've found a way to kind of almost get to the point where there's nothing in life that is so critical or so important in the moment that God can't handle it. So I don't care if I missed something, I didn't pay a bill, the lights get turned on, whatever the scenario is. In my mind and in my spirit now, I know that, God works all things to good of those who love him or are called according to his purpose. And if this happened, he allowed it. Satan only gets ability to do things when God allows. I mean, look at the Job story. So things like that just remind me that whatever the situation is, there's a solution for it. There's a back door somewhere. There's a reconciliation here. So there's no need to get worked up. No need to get all flustered over it. Just acknowledge it, come to terms with the fact that it happened. You can't change the past. Now what? And that's kind of what my mindset has been.
So that all sounds well and good. And it's written all over you that that's who you be. That's who Gary is. And I experience you that way too. But when that moment hits, when that thing happens, when that, thing goes boom and you are in reaction mode, what happens on the inside?
I mean, on the inside, the first thing I do in every situation, is I'm just like, okay, this happened. This, whatever happened doesn't define me. It's not my legacy. It's not any, people always talk about career defining moments and things like that. And there's no such thing in my mind, what defines me is who I belong to, right? I'm a child of God. That's my career defining moment. Everything else is secondary to that. So when something happens, it seems like, oh my gosh, you just lost a customer. It's, you got to tell your president about it and he's not going to be happy, like whatever the scenario, yeah, that happened. It happens. I'm not the first person to lose a customer. Now what? What can I do to show this customer, and make that customer feel like, they might be regretting this decision because they're losing, the ability to work with a great human that cares about their needs maybe more than most humans do or something. Whatever the differentiator is with my personality, my God-given gifts, like then I just lean into those things because at the end of the day, that's all you can. God put you on this earth with some skills and talents that no one else has. You're a one of one in a lane of one.
Amen.
There's really there's zero competition in that lane. You walk in that lane, there aren't even any other.
Say that again.
There's zero competition in your lane, the lane that God created for you.
One of one.
One of one.
When you're comparing yourself to you, when you're getting up tomorrow to be the best version of yourself, when you're showing up and investing and giving it your all.
Yeah.
That's all you can be asked to do.
Yeah. There's nobody else in that lane.
So there's two words that come up for me as I sit here and watch you and listen to you, right? And it's wisdom, right? I've got a real sense of wisdom from you and a sense of like knowing and strength, right? A quiet strength, which is powerful, right? And for young men or young women, right? Or folks that have maybe are older in age, but youthful in their behaviors, right? This is what wisdom looks like. right here. I'm looking at it. So,
this guy too.
no, well, thanks. Appreciate it. I think I might have had a few more bumps and bruises along the way, but, and the other thing that came up for me as you were sharing was the neutrality you have towards events. I sensed a neutrality. Something bad happens and you didn't describe a situation where you took that on as a reflection of you, or that's who you were, an identity in that. Right.
Right.
And so that neutrality on, the event is what it is. And, and this might be interesting too. I'm at a couple of events in my own personal life where I'm like, I did everything right as best I can in my knowledge. Right. But like in the outcome or the situation we're in, I'm like, this is an absolute disaster, right? To use a military acronym, FUBAR. I won't tell you what it means. You can Google it. It's a bad word. But it's just an absolute mess. And I'm like, from where I am and the actions I took, this should not be where we're at.
Right.
So I've had to find myself in a few situations, be like, okay, to your point, God uses all things for good. Right. And so that event that I'm part of, I'm holding the space right now that I'm learning to be neutral to it because he needs to use that event for somebody else, right? Or I haven't yet learned my lesson or seen my learning through it. But Christy and I have had to, kind of walk through it and be gentle in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, there's so much to learn through failure. And, even that's, we're talking about leadership. I mean, one good trait of a leader is allowing the people that you're either responsible for or have influence over to fail, right? The flexibility and space to be able to fail, and know that it's a safe space to fail
and to
learn because you learn from failure. I mean, all this wisdom or whatever you think you see, it comes from a lot of failure. Let's be real, people.
I think Churchill says something about moving from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah. You get up every morning after the fail and you keep going with enthusiasm and excitement, knowing that, you don't know what's around the corner, but there's a lot of opportunity in life around the corner. This fail doesn't define you. You got to keep trucking. You got to keep on going. So
something that I'm sure there's a story in here. I don't know what it is yet, but I want to ask this question. And it's around courage, right? I've had moments where, like I've just had to step into the fire, right? I've had to own it. I've had to expose myself as me not doing enough or my team or whatever, but just own a situation that was terrifying to step into. Do you have a moment like that? And what were some of the lessons you learned from stepping into it versus running or hiding or cowering or what have you?
I mean, to be honest, the most terrifying challenge I've ever faced was divorce. I mean, me and my wife, Shannon, my current last and only wife, we went through a divorce, and, for all the different reasons, we went through that. But as we were going through that, everybody was telling me, my wife got a lawyer and, all the things. And everybody was like, you should get a lawyer and fight. And I'm like, fight for what? I love this woman. Like, this isn't a war. This isn't a battle.
There's no win.
This is not something to fight, and, so I didn't, and I felt like during that time, the part that was hard was to let go and let that play out because, I loved her to death. She's, had a very difficult upbringing and just a lot of different things that I can't even really relate to because I didn't have that type of an upbringing. But she had to deal with those things. Right. And God kept telling me, Holy Spirit kept telling me, let her go, because, let me have her. I will give her back to you. And, everybody says that but I believed him. I was like, okay, and I let her go. I didn't fight. I didn't do anything. It was the hardest thing to watch, the impact on my kids. Just watching them go through all of it was tough. But then, probably like during the time we were, getting divorced at the court, we were still great friends, and all the lawyers said that they were like casting lots on who, how long we would be divorced because they didn't think it was going to be long. They're like, oh, they're definitely getting back together. And then, months later, we started talking again, and a year later, we got remarried, and we got remarried on the same day that we got divorced. A year earlier, it was a divorce date. The year later, it was Good Friday. It just happened to land that same date. It happened to land on Good Friday, so we got married on Good Friday. But what I learned from that is trust God in all things, and don't, again, your situations that happen to you don't define you. Like, you don't know what you could have your whole future planned out. Like, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be rich, I'm gonna do all these things, I'm gonna be successful. And then something happens to you that's outside of your control. That doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're a failure or that you didn't do all the things that you set out to do. It's just that in this, there's wild cards and things that happen that you can't control. And the more you realize that most of what's happening in your life you can't control, the more you will let go and stop trying to hoard and control and protect everything. You just gotta let it go and do your best in every moment. Be the best you. Continue to invest in yourself, like you were saying on a previous podcast. Sabbaticals, fasting. Do things that take care of your temple so that you can be the best you that God created you to be. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, I don't know. We're just having a good chat here. Can I ask a personal question?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, did your children share with you anything about that experience or what they witnessed or maybe what they learned by watching you and your wife go through this?
That's a good question. Not in so many words, but we've had conversations about just what life was like during that time and just the uncertainty. And and even me, they lived with their mom, and I was the one that left, from as far as living arrangements. But later on I learned that there was so much more emotional stuff going on in the household with them, and their mom was being a lot more transparent with them on her feelings, and and all of that, and she cried a lot and sort of that sort of thing. So it was more them sharing that with me later, like, mom was miserable the whole time, and she regretted it and all that sort of stuff, and and just the thought of having a new dad or a new, like, whatever, all that, all of that would have occurred if I had gotten remarried and Shannon would have got remarried, like all of that. Just I'm so thankful that I don't even have to go down that road, but just even thinking about, like, what would that have been? How would we work through that? And knowing that our ex would always be in the picture because of our kids, and just, I just know that, no knock on anybody that's gotten divorced that, remained divorced, but I know that's not what God's plan was for our family. So, so thankful that that we didn't have to do that.
Well, and what an act of surrender.
Yeah.
Right. Like, to love something and let it go. It reminds me of, I think it's Chinese, like a parable that says anybody can keep a bird in a cage. Mm-hmm. But when you open the door to the cage and the bird flies free and then comes home to rest, then you've got the bird.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you did. So, I want to talk to you about relationships because, like I opened the conversation saying, reputation is a currency of the realm. Your reputation in our industry, the temporary medical staffing space, right, is pristine across multiple companies, across the entire hierarchy of leadership, followership, doer, manager, front office, back office. It doesn't matter who you talk to, that you in your name and who you are in the industry and who you be as somebody is just phenomenal. And that's a testament to how you live and the man you are, and the story you just shared, speaks into that. But, for some folks, relationships are challenging. For some folks, building, maintaining, cultivating, nourishing relationships is challenging. And so what do you do? How have you done it? What, techniques, skills, process, sometimes we have to make things mechanical before they become natural, right? And so like my mom taught me to send thank you notes, and I still send thank you note, right? Some of those things like around relationships, especially as we advance towards the world of AI, right? I'm telling my kids this all the time. Next Friday, we're having a dinner with my IT guy because I want them to learn about AI, because my son seems to think it's not coming, or I don't know. He thinks it's gonna go away, and I'm like, it's not going away, buddy. Maybe it is. I don't know, but
maybe it's current utilization.
Yeah, but in the new,
it's going to always be there.
in the next 10, 20, 30 years, like relationship and the ability to build meaningful relationships where people can mutually thrive, succeed, support, is, I think it's only going to be amplified, and you're a master at that. So what can you share with us about relationships, building them, nourishing them? Just what comes up?
I mean, for me, relationships are about the other person. I know a lot of people approach relationships as in like, I need to have a relationship with Gabe because it's going to help me. Like I have an agenda that is a reason for that relationship. Me, even if I know that connection is going to benefit me, my posture is always to figure out how I can be a blessing to that person. Right. And so, that takes, I feel like one of the giftings that God gave me was the ability to encourage people and just help them feel valued and appreciated. And so almost every initial communication I have with somebody that I'm trying to build a relationship, it starts with gratitude. A lot of gratitude in some way, finding something to thank them for, to be thankful for. Thankfulness is contagious. It's just a great starting point. When people know that you are operating in a spirit of appreciation, they tend to respond different to you. I mean, just think of all the time somebody, flatters you or something. You're like, oh, well, and then you open up a conversation with them because you feel you appreciate the fact that they saw something in you, or they recognize something that you didn't even know people knew about you or whatever. You noticed that? I didn't know, that thing. So that's my focus always, is just how do I love on somebody? How do I, whether it's, I need something from the billing department, at my organization, I'm finding ways to love on the billing folks. If I need something in compliance, I'm finding ways to love on the compliance folks. And not just,
not transactionally.
Yeah,
just
not transactionally.
But
yeah, just like I need to reach out to, hey, happy Friday. I love what you guys are doing over there. Hey, I got a question. And people remember that you thought about them and that you treated them differently. Like I call everybody my friend. I don't care who it is. I'm like, hey, friend, I need something. And it's. I think people remember that. And so then when you really need something from them, and, they just remember that posture, that countenance of like, this person's not barking at me. This person's not demanding something from me. This person wants to collaborate and partner with me in some sort of way. And the same thing goes for clients or any other industry contacts, is I'm always just you're just trying to start with gratitude. That would be if there was one thing that I would tell my younger self and anybody else, is always approach everything with gratitude.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. When I think your way of being and your meter and your tone and your pace gives people room to come into your presence, right? And feel that gratitude, right? If I throw a platitude at you and then run over it with, I need that invoice, they're like, he said I looked nice. Where's the, and then there has to be that human space, right? That moment. And I fail at this often. I go too fast.
Yeah.
Right. Or I have the conversation in my head. I've already worked through the conversation and, you're saying hello and I'm already done with the conversation and moving to the next thing. And they're like, what just blew through here? Cause I'm lost.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you got patience, like exhibiting patience and clarity are big, right? When you need something from somebody, if you're coming to them at the last minute, I need this yesterday, then they're thinking, well, what kind of leader are you that you're waiting to the last minute to ask for the things that you need? You probably knew about this 2 weeks ago and you're telling me now 5 minutes before the board meeting. Like that's, I don't appreciate that, type of thing, other than, versus coming to somebody early and saying, hey, I need this. If you can get it to me by the end of the week, that'd be great. And just showing some sort of display of patience, like, hey, I thought this through. I'm being very intentional and thoughtful about this. I wouldn't ask you if I didn't really need your help, but you have some expertise that I don't have. I need your resource. But I respect your time enough to give you time.
Yes. Well, we like to say, failure on your part to plan doesn't constitute an emergency for me.
Right.
Like, so
exactly.
We're going to get to that when we can. So you're also a very accomplished musician.
Yeah. I've done a few things. So if somebody wanted to see your music, is there someplace they can go to? So my stage name is Sivion, Sivion. If you Google search that, a bunch of stuff will come up, Christian hip hop and some jazz. You can do the same search on Instagram, actually Sivion, D as in David, S as in Sam, the number 5, Sivion DS5. That's my handle on Instagram. And I think Facebook and X, Twitter. I got music videos, lots of albums out on Apple Music and all those other platforms. So, definitely can, if you like boom bap, like classic style 90s hip hop with lyrics you can listen to in front of your kids, this guy.
All right. Well, I'm glad. Well, we'll check that out. And I just want to say thank you, Gary, for being here.
My pleasure, man.
Always inspired by you. Honored to call you a friend. The wisdom that you demonstrate, to the audience, to the folks that are out there. None of us are getting out of this alive. I've said that a few times, right? Like we all know where we're going to end up. But where you're at right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. And so be nice, be kind, be graceful, be patient with yourself, because from there you can do it for others, right? And you can begin to apply some of the brilliance that Gary shared with us here today. So thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you for listening. I know this meant something to you. If it did, if you made you think of somebody, please make sure to drop it in a text or share it on one of the platforms and subscribe. We are always honored to have you here, honored to have you be part of the Navigating Leaders community. My name's Gabriel Griess, your host, and until next time, God bless.